That is not a home. Shelter around Hanover City, that shelter is not a home. And when you get the key, them chase out the man, so it's not a home.
What it would cause from my making, it cause from my making to your making. You can't make it for me.
Homelessness affects a significant amount of Jamaicans. There are over 2,000 homeless individuals living in Jamaica. These individuals live in demeaning environments that negatively affect their health. Homeless people are oftentimes stigmatized as individuals who are mentally ill. They are victims of threats, sexual victimization, and physical assault. Their daily routine is a struggle for survival. Barrington Duar is homeless and suffers from diabetes. He recently lost his foot and struggles with his sight. Barrington is often seen at the Supreme Court in downtown Kingston asking for money to purchase food. He explains that he seeks financial assistance in order to visit the Kingston Public Hospital for treatment. Currently, he lays on the street side due to the discomfort of sitting too long in his wheelchair. Barrington is one of the many homeless individuals who are suffering from health issues.
After finishing my MBBS, I worked as a medical doctor in St. Anne's Bay Hospital, where I was exposed to the treatment of the mentally ill in general hospitals on an open ward, and it piqued my interest. And so I did my DM in psychiatry at the University of the West Indies, and I have been a member of several committees, including the task force for the homeless and mentally ill patients.
Jamaica Red Cross is the largest humanitarian organization in the world, which is dedicated to improving the lives of vulnerable people.
Persons would know us for disaster. Whenever there is a disaster, relief, whenever there's a hurricane in Jamaica, then one of the first names to call is the Red Cross. We want to pride ourselves, though, in working with a group of persons like the ODP and the Ministry of Labour and Social Security and so on, to which we are a group and partners with these persons.
I've always felt that a halfway house could be set up, because sometimes what these people really want is just an opportunity to start back.
Mr. Clark, who refused to be on camera, states that he has been staying at the Portland Rehabilitation Management for a year due to his financial status. Prior to becoming homeless, he became an alcoholic and was also diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Staying at the shelter has helped him to cope with his addiction. The members at the shelter engage in occupational therapy. They assist around the shelter to raise chickens, goats, and they plant various crops to provide food for the shelter. Mr. Clark states that all he needs to make him productive is a job. But he is a victim of discrimination. Being homeless, he has been denied of numerous jobs, even though he has the capabilities. He seeks donation for supplies to build more furniture for the shelter.
It's actually somewhat more than just a homeless shelter. It is also a rehabilitation center, where from a resident comes in at admittance, you're given a medical and a psych exam, and then medication to go along, which balance out whatever problems you had. So then the next thing would be employment. And most of the people here, if they are gainfully employed, they can leave and go back out on their own. People do that. But if we can have, if a program can be implemented, so these people can be gainfully employed after they find out what's wrong with them. Like, for example, with me, found out that I was bipolar and I was self-medicated by drinking too much. You understand? Now that I understand this, I only need gainful employment and I could be back out on my own. So it's much more than just a homeless shelter. It does really rehabilitate people.
Sometimes it's good just to talk to them and to show them that they are not alone.
I think one of the biggest challenge as a person with a disability is people's attitude towards us. We still have to get over the hurdle that this group of persons exist and that we need to be treated as another human being.
Most of the times we've been able to get them connected with at least one institution that will be able to provide them with some level of assistance as it relates to living arrangements. As it stands now, I think half of the homeless populations are actually being served by either one of the non-governmental or the governmental institutions who provide care for the homeless.
There is a group that call themselves the Homeless Organization. They operate out of Clarendon and they're a non-governmental organization. They have set up a home where they feed them, they can go in and bathe and change and eat, and if they care to stay, they stay. If they want to leave, they leave.
If it was up to me, I'd build a home for them to stay, feed them, give them everything they need.
If I walk past them and if I have the money, I will try to help them out.
Some may be incarcerated, and once they are released, they really are not accepted back into the community, so they really have nowhere to live.
They do have places to go, but most times they choose not to go around their family members, relatives or friends because of what they have done. So persons don't necessarily want to associate themselves with a person of such behavior or with such record.
They are rejected not only by the family but even the society on a whole, and their way of survival is on the streets. Notice it's mainly males that are on the streets. Sometimes it's the ability to provide, and because they cannot provide, they end up being on the street.
It's not easy dealing with a homeless person because these persons will react differently. Some of them, they don't speak, so you don't know what they're thinking. So whenever you're approaching them, you have to be cautious. You have to ensure that you watch every movement, ensure that you get the area sterile so that no one will be hurt in the case where the person decides to react.
We also have to remember that these people have rights and we have to preserve their rights. If it's a situation in which the patient is not able to act in their best interest and we are firmly convinced that there's a threat to the person's well-being or a threat to the society in general, then our actions have to be taken under the law in a way that's involuntary.
You also have the Mental Health Act, which we definitely practice as well, because the Mental Health Act speaks of mental health facilities, psychiatric facilities, and places that can be recommended, or places that these persons who are homeless or of unsound mind can be sent for additional treatment or for initial treatment.
On the gully side, do you see anything to smile about? Look at that hungry child, yeah. Do you see anything to smile about?
Downtown is where you will see most homeless people. King Street in downtown Kingston is classified as the headquarters where most homeless people gather. Reason for this is that frequent donation of food and clothes take place in this area.
I have to try to find out the boundary them first, when them serve the food and we kind of comfortable spot and all. You have to look at yourself, how the food run for timing. Like you know, so well then, for a Sunday, all 4, 5, 6 man will come, but sometimes 2. But for a Sunday is the best day here, so. And right now we come from Marvelous, not to come. And yet all the food come before we come. And for the rest of the day, no must come. You must eat for the rest of the day, unless you get a good breakfast around the shelter this morning, you don't must eat for the rest of the day.
Different branches approach the feeding program differently. So there are some branches who, for them, their entire outreach is based on the homeless or street persons. So for instance, a couple of years ago, I worked very closely with the St. Catherine branch, for instance, and their program for, I can speak clearly about that one, is that they just go into the parish, go into different towns and cities, and anybody who is there who is homeless, they would feed them, right? There are some parish or branch that they go into institution and feed those persons on a regular basis.
According to Dr. Angela Brown-Burke, they promote the use of all feeding centers which are operated by churches and civic organizations. She says individuals who are feeding the homeless have good intentions. But if the activity is not managed, it can be a problem. Therefore, a schedule should be established.
All the night you see stone, because young people them go out, they most do that. Stone, you must have had it. I get my foot broke last year, March, round a football street, I see. Spent nearly 3 months in the hospital, 2 months and some, about 3 years. Same name, Paul, yeah. Come back on the road again. Rough and tough, but the other man with the police, but go home. Tough, but not easy, because chances against death. And when you are sure you don't know nothing, it's against death. You have to give God praises to that.
What worries me though is like when rain falls and there is storm, I have to remember that there are human beings out there too. And that makes me sad.
Can you imagine there's a disaster, a hurricane category 5 or something like that, destroying a good portion of Jamaica, and you're homeless to begin with. Not that you have a home and it's destroyed, that you are, to begin with, having nowhere. Homelessness is a disaster by itself.
I will not be afraid.
The Open Arms Drop-In Center on Windward Road is a non-governmental organization that was established in 2006. It provides long-term residence for males and operates as a drop-in center for females. They aim to rehabilitate and to reintegrate the homeless back into society as well-thinking citizens. Meet Mr. Davis, a 76-year-old homeless man from the parish of St. Anne. He has been homeless since December of 1981. He struggles with his speech, but in his words, he trusts God and never loses faith.
I know here's me in this state, so we have no contact. People love me, and just people love me if I bring things, but sometimes they expect things from.
Mr. Davis now lives at the back of the Carnation Market in downtown Kingston. He explains that he has a daughter that visits him from time to time. However, he says he is quite happy because he has life. Mr. Davis is otherwise called Robbie by vendors in the market.
One of the fulfilling aspects of the job is getting the opportunity to get persons who are not able to function to a level of functionality where we tend to look down upon or even dismiss persons who are homeless. But these people just require a little assistance to get them back to where you and I may be.
But the real fact about it is that the government need to do more for these homeless people, because some of these people already contribute to society over the years, and now that they have, unfortunately, they are in a position now where they can't help themselves. The government needs to help them too.
Feel bad for them. feel bad for them in a way because I really think like the government should do something for them better.
They have lost their self-esteem, their whole dignity, the whole relationship with human beings and with people. Because sometimes, I don't know if you notice, sometimes you see animals around them. They develop a close relationship with animals, whether goats or dogs. But you watch it, they are there. And sometimes what it is that they are looking for from people, they are not getting it.
At times, to be honest, I neglect and look away, but at times I feel really bad with it, and I try to assist as well. I mean, I'm not making a huge income, but I try to give whatever I have.
Government can never do everything alone, and therefore I welcome the idea of persons wanting to help in whatever way. And it has to be genuine help, not help to tell the world that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing, but what it is you can do to make a change.
I think my main projects that I want to work on when I'm out here, I want to specialise in fundraising and sort of getting inbound tourism to kind of find out more about the shelter and how like tourists can help here as well, and just raising as much money as we can for the shelter.
I came with the idea of doing some recycling art therapy, so I've been getting around with that, with plastic bottles. The idea might be intimidating at the first glance, but then once you arrive at a shelter like this, you find out that everybody is like everybody else.
There are persons who are always willing to partner with us and come in and either volunteer their time and their services or volunteer and give us food kind or tin stuff or whatever it is. That's the nature of Jamaicans, really. We can be very aggressive, but we are also a very loving set of persons when the situation requires that. We accept anybody who wants to volunteer can volunteer. What we encourage is that persons can volunteer based on the parish that you're in. So for instance, if you want to volunteer, I would not expect you to go all the way to Montego Bay, because I am assuming that you live in Kingston. So you would volunteer with the Kingston branch. If you live in Portmore, you'd volunteer with the St. Catherine branch. Or if you work in Kingston and want to volunteer that side, then you can. So we welcome every and all. Anybody who wants to volunteer can. All it requires is for you to make a call or make a visit to the branch office, and they will tell you how best to, to partner with them. We tend to put volunteers, or we allow volunteers to work with us based on their comfort, right? So if you're an accountant, if you want to learn something new, we are not opposing to that.
If we all come together to help the homeless, it can make a huge difference. They are homeless not because they want to. They endure unspeakable events. Who are we as human beings if we ignore the sufferings of others? In a day full of hardship, a simple smile and a word of kindness can make a big difference. Give a helping hand. It is worth more than you will ever know. Volunteer, donate, or just being kind to the homeless can go a far way.